The pieces of the puzzle have been coming together. 3 very important facts that contradict Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s statements that he's made over the past. You know what? Let's just get into some of this straight game. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Blackjack. Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy Delray Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button notification, as it helps the content reach more potential subscribers, as well as the people who are already subscribed to the channel. Also subscribe to the channel yourself if you haven't already, and tell a friend. What I'd like to always mention is the fact that if this is your first time viewing the channel and you would like to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and hit the bell notification button right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a lot of blatant misinformation given out in regards to the night in Las Vegas, right? And the purveyor of that information, or the person who's been responsible for that information, is the person who bears the brunt of most of the responsibility involving the death of Tupac Shakur, and he goes by the name of Reginald the Rat Wright Jr. I'm going to get into some facts. There was an interview that Reggie the Rat Jr. Did on Vlad TV, and in that interview he was asked about the night in Vegas, and in regards to in which he wasn't at the casino. Let's be clear, he wasn't at the casino that night when it happened, but Frank Alexander was. And for some odd reason, Frank was asked a question in regards to what had happened. Was there an incident that I don't think he probably just didn't recall if it was an incident. The way the question was actually posed to him was there an altercation incident or something like that in regards to Tupac, in regards to before they actually, reached before the shooting, or should I say before the fight, and that and Frank had basically said no in so many words, but when he was questioned again, he asked the investigator asked him the question again. Now, mind you, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has been going around saying that somehow, some way, that nobody whispered in Tupac's ear, if you will, right? And I'm going to read to you the statement in which Frank Alexander gave to the investigators when they questioned him. And this is just for factional and truthful reasons why I'm doing this. Check this out. And basically the question was, the investigator said, okay, I'm going to go through the statement and then we'll get into some other subject matters. A couple of questions in particular I had asked you prior to this occurring, meaning the shooting. Were there any problems that arose in which Mr. Shakur was involved? At that time, you said no. You have a different answer to that now. And Frank answered yes. That answer is yes. And the investigator asked him, what causes you to say yes? What did happen that you recall? And the answer that Frank gave, like I said, if you listen to the question, you say incident or anything, altercation, incident, whatever happened, you thinking that something happened, but he's like, oh, okay. And it came to him. He said, and the answer is the incident at the MGM that had happened after the fight, after we had left the Grand Garden Arena there was a gentleman that came over to Tupac and whispered in his ear. What that was, I have no idea. But they whispered in, the guy whispered in his ear, and Tupac took off immediately, and he ran, basically, right? Now, let's get into that. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has basically been running around telling people that nobody never whispered in Tupac's ear. It was a conversation among some people that Tupac overheard, right? And the question is, why would he say something like that? He wasn't even there for it. This is what somebody had allegedly told him from that perspective, if you will. But Frank Alexander was there. He was standing right next to Tupac. So once again, the lies have been told since the inception of this situation. And like I said, for truthful purposes, you got to understand that Frank Alexander was there. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was not there at the MGM when that happened. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was actually supposed to be at the fight because he's admitted that he had a ticket to the fight, but came up with some kind of excuse by saying that he had something more important to do than go to the fight on a Saturday night at approximately 9:30 at night. There's nobody coming to inspect a nightclub and you need to be involved. See, that's what he told the brother Benjamin Crump when they did the show on, I believe it was A&E. He was like, oh, I had something else important to do. And then he stopped questioning. He stopped answering questions. He said, I'm going to stop right there. You see? So that lie right there that he's been running around telling, we know for a fact it's not true. Frank said it out of his own mouth, what he saw. And I can understand how he would get the question mixed up based on it being an altercation before the shooting and asking, and then he remembering, oh, okay, was there anything that happened prior to that, from that perspective? And then he goes into this situation, and remembering like, yo, somebody came over and whispered something in Tupac's ear and he took off, right? So that dispels that myth, that lie that Reginald, the Rat Wright Jr. has been running around telling. And let me get into another one. So, and the question, this is very interesting right here, because this part right here gets into the when you talk about going through and somebody lying and having somebody lie and then the crazy part about this is there was a guy that asked Reggie in regards to why would he have asked Frank lie about the chain snatching, right? And so I had to do a little research. And so you have to understand this is very important, because as you can see in this statement in which Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had came out and told the guy when he asked the question, he said that he was trying to protect Tupac and stop him from going to jail. That's an outright lie based on the fact of what happened in regards to that situation. Here's the question to Frank. Has anybody since September 7th told you what to tell the police about the murder investigation of Tupac? The answer: the only thing I was told was the incident that started the fight at the MGM Grand was because Orlando Anderson, which I did not know who he was at that time, tried to snatch Tupac's chain as we were entering the MGM Grand. That was the only thing I was told to say that I knew wasn't true when we arrived at the MGM that night, September 7th. The investigator said, that's a false story. And Frank says, yes, that story is false, right? And so, well, who would ask him to do such a thing like that, right? Who would do that? Let's get into this. Check this out now. Remember what Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. told the guy on the question thing when he asked him about that. He said it was about Tupac. But listen to this. He said the investigator asked Frank, he said, I'd like to point out at this time that particular conversation during the revocation, the defense was telling the prosecution that your statement about that episode was false. So they're telling you to say this, yet they came right back around and passed that on to say that that was false. Why would they do that? And here's the reason why. And Frank answered the investigator. He said the reason why, and this was at the revocation, what they mean is Suge Knight's revocation hearing when they're trying to revoke his probation or parole that his probation that he was on. They were trying to and they wanted Frank to testify. And Frank comes out and he says the reason why they said that is because the night that I was tricked into going to Mr. Wright's office, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s office. I explained to Reginald Wright Jr. what was told to me, and that I would not get on the stand and lie and testify to that being correct. This is why they never called me to the stand after subpoenaing me. So in this one thing, he told the guy that asked him on the chat line, right? He told him one thing, that it was about Tupac. He lied. He continues to lie over and over and over again. But for here, we see what Frank basically said. It was based on Suge's revocation hearing. But the lie was preposterous. Like what? You understand what I'm saying? So from that perspective, this is the reason why I tell you, you cannot believe anything that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. says. This is serious, y'all. This is serious. 1 minute is for Tupac. We see that the court filings and the prosecution and the defense basically came out and admitted that that was false because Frank wouldn't get on the stand and lie. Right? Amazing. Amazing. And the crazy, and then it goes on. He said, but the question, he asked him a question again. He said, but you were told to say that. And Frank answered, I was told to say it. Yes. And the question, did you know that? Answer, I didn't know the reason why I was told to say it. Keep that in mind. Question, you know for a fact that didn't happen because you were with Tupac when you went into the MGM. Frank said, correct. Question, and you know there ain't no chain snatcher. And Frank said, correct. Do y'all see what I'm saying? Do y'all see what I'm saying? And so I understand why people would come to all of the conclusions that they've come to. You understand what I mean? And like I said, once again, Suge Knight had nothing to do with the murder of Tupac Shakur. Absolutely, positively nothing. Suge wanted Tupac protected at all costs. If I can put it into words, Tupac was Suge Knight's golden goose, if you will, from that perspective. You understand what I'm saying? And so, and there was another lie that's been told. And what I like about this one is the fact that when Frank mentions this, he not only says it, but he gives a particular date, if you will, in regards to what he's about to say. And he said, and this is so funny. He said, Reggie has been running around trying to discredit Frank, and the reason why he does that is so that basically the information and the statements that Frank has made, he can basically say that, well, Frank don't know, he wasn't around, he wasn't Tupac's main bodyguard, and so on and so forth, right? Once again, that is an outright lie. And the reason I understand that is because when Frank was asked the question, right? Frank was asked the question. And this is serious. He said, you were the main bodyguard for Tupac. And Frank answered, I was Tupac's main bodyguard. I was requested by Tupac to be his main bodyguard. Question, that night and or for a period of time before? And Frank answers, no, this happened at the March fight. I believe it was March 16th when he fought Frank Bruno, meaning Mike Tyson, right? That's when I got the news that I was to be Tupac's main bodyguard at his request. This is March of 1996. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't remember dates, times, and places if you lying. Once again, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has been trying to discredit Frank Alexander even after his death. But Frank left enough information for us to basically compare the lie and the truth. And the truth is that Frank Alexander was 100. He was 100. He had no reason to lie. Period. And as we've seen, we've caught Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and his complicit partner, Gullible John, in numerous lies, petty lies, what they call unsolicited lies. But the truth will be exposed, as it consistently and constantly has been. So, like I said, I had to bring this to you to contrast the lies that Reggie has been telling with this truth right here. And like I said, once again, when you go over the facts and you understand it, you'll start to be able to put the pieces together yourself. I told you that's why Tupac and Suge were allowed to be shot that night in Vegas. It was because of Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s negligence, him pulling the security off of Tupac, him mad because he had gotten fired, and him being in his feelings made it impossible for him to do his job. As we've seen numerous times, he's gotten into his feelings on this YouTube platform. So much so, after I released that video that I released that they fraudulently copyright claimed me for, right? He did that because it was the truth. And I put those puzzles, those pieces of the puzzle together to show it that it was him and his negligence and his anger and his jealousy and his bitterness also at Tupac's and Suge Knight's relationship. Absolutely. When you really pay attention. Your boy Delray, straight game.